Welcome into the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast, where we have our guest Andrew McInnis, where you can follow on Twitter at McInnis Picks, breaking down the card. We're going to go over 4-5-1 all the way down to the Monday Nighter 4-7-8, Washington at New Orleans. But without further ado, Andrew McInnis, welcome into the podcast, bud.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Another week here, Drew. And like I mentioned to you off air, what a time to be a sports fan right now. What a time to be a sports handicapper. We've got so many games, college football, NFL. Of course, the NHL started. I'm absolutely stoked about that. As far as CFL goes, the playoffs are on the way. And, of course, MLB playoffs. There's just so much to talk about. It's a great time to be a sports fan.
It really is. And, guys, if you haven't checked out the new Sportsmemo.com webpage, it's up. It looks good. It's secure. It's running fast. Just, some of the clients are getting used to the different where you click, where you get your plays and stuff. But, overall, it's been pretty good. Been a good transition here to the new website. And Andrew McInnis kind of leading the way here. He's got on a 20-2 run in the NHL through going back to preseason.
20 and 12.
Did I say 2?
That two would be great, but yeah, 20 and 12.
Thank you. Yeah, don't want to put out any false advertisement. 20 and 12 run going back into the NHL preseason, which the NHL actually just started this week. He's got a 4% play up on sportsmemo.com right now. But Andrew, let's get into NFL, maybe talk a little NHL after if we got time. But let's start off at the top of the card, 4-5-1, 4-5-2, Baltimore at Cleveland. Looks like the Ravens laying 3 on the road, little bit of juice with that, minus 120 at most sports books. Looks like 45.5 the total. Got anything on Baltimore, Cleveland?
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting game in my eyes, Drew. You kind of got to feel bad for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they've had so many games this year where they've been in them. I mean, they've been competing, and everyone knows how terrible they were last year. We're continuing to talk about this team as they progress, and when they got their first win, they mentioned to the media and they said, "Look, we're not just satisfied about this one win. We're trying to get numerous wins, and we're trying to make this team serious and make a good push." So. I'm happy to see what they're doing. They're putting up some numbers and stuff like that. Baker Mayfield, of course, now he's the man in Cleveland. He led them to their first victory. But, a couple unforced fumbles there last week, a couple underthrows, in my opinion, from Mayfield, and a couple plays that maybe shouldn't have happened on both sides of the ball for Cleveland that could definitely have prevented them from letting that game slip away from them against Oakland. And, now this is kind of a quick spot here against a very, very competitive Ravens team. And, I think that the Browns are getting some respect here from the odds makers. I mean, a -3 line, to me, that's a little bit too small. I'm going to have to take the Ravens here. They're just on a different level than this Browns team, in my opinion. It's no discredit against the Browns, but I just don't think they'll be able to compete touchdown after touchdown. It'll be a very, very high-paced, high-tempoed game. Both these two teams don't waste any time. They don't really run the clock down too much. And, I'm going to look at Ravens -3, and I'm going to go over the total of 45.5. I mean, this game should be an absolute shootout in my eyes. I think the Ravens have really, really tried to kind of push their tempo. They're going downfield a lot more, and Flacco's been looking great recently as well. So, again, -3 with the Ravens and over the total.
All right, we got 4-5-3, 4-5-4, Jacksonville at KC. This is a big one, Andrew. I mean, this is, arguably the biggest NFL game on the board, 1 o'clock Eastern kick here. We got 49 the total with KC laying 3 at home. This is an interesting handicap because this is probably, or it is Patrick Mahomes' toughest defense he's ever faced, really, in his career. It's interesting to kind of handicap this one. Which way are you leaning, Jacksonville or KC?
I'm leaning KC here, Drew. That's not really, the side isn't really my favorite play in this one. I'm more excited about the total, but I am going to lean KC. I think that Patrick Mahomes and this powerful offense and the depth that this team has won't be stopped quite yet. I think it'll take a little bit longer for teams to kind of figure them out. And I think coming into this week versus Jacksonville, I got to say, Drew, everyone loves this Jacksonville team to talk about their defensive abilities, the fact that they're now putting up points on the board as well. But I'm not really as high on their consistency. I mean, if you look week after week, it's the same guys that should be continuously being those top guys and should be stepping up and should be putting up, boatloads of yards aren't doing that. And I think KC is still capable of having a very exciting game. They're young, they're fast, and again, they push the tempo a lot. So, it's laying a field goal here. It's not too bad of a line, but I really do have to go with KC. But the play I do love, Drew, is the over 49.5. I mean, holy crap! What we've seen from this KC team, pretty much, I believe, 3-1 to the over. And again, this Jacksonville team has been known for being a defensive team. They've been known for shutting teams down and causing those turnovers, getting defensive touchdowns. But it seems to me they've been involved in plenty of high-scoring games so far. I can count on them to put up some high numbers, and I know KC will do that as well. So for me, I got to go over the total of 49.5 in this one as well.
All right, good stuff there. We got Tennessee at Buffalo. Looks like the Titans 5.5 on the highway, 39.5 the total, Andrew.
This one's an interesting one, Drew, because I don't really know what to think about this Buffalo team. I mean, one of these times it has to give in. I mean, they're trying to progress as each week goes, and same thing really with this Tennessee team. I mean, I don't really know what to expect from them. They scored just 9 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars 2 weeks ago, and then last week they put up 26 points in their victory against Philly. So, on a week-to-week basis, when I'm handicapping NFL, my main tool really is just looking for some type of consistency at one position in the field or at one aspect of their game. And I still don't really know the identity of this Tennessee team. So as much as they're impressing people and finding a way, they're still only averaging, around like 18 points per game and keeping things pretty low. So I'm going to take a shot here with Buffalo. I think it's time that the big guys for Buffalo really do step up. It's time for Allen to prove himself. It's time for McCoy to consistently step things up. I mean, it's tough for a running back when you're on a pretty lower tier team, but you've got to pull your weight and really prove your worth to the team. So having said that, I'm going to go and lay the points, or I guess go with Buffalo plus the 5.5, and I will go under in this one, under 39.5. I think this one will remain to be a low-scoring game. Won't be too exciting of a matchup, I'll tell you that much, but I think it'll come down to the wire, and 5.5 is a number I'm comfortable with here, Drew.
Yeah, funny you say won't be too exciting of a matchup. You see it kind of in the total under 40 here. But we'll move down the card. We got New York Giants at Carolina Panthers. Looks like this one low total as well, 43.5. 6.5 Carolina laying at home, Andrew. Carolina's kind of been impressive. Cam Newton playing well. You think they can cover this 6 against the New York Giants?
I think they can. I'm impressed with Carolina. I think that for some reason they're continuously misunderstood, misread, and underrated. I think that Cam Newton puts himself in a lot of volatile positions. And he's getting injured quite a bit, and he does take a lot of hits, but he is an exceptional quarterback. I'm very high on him. I'm a big Cam Newton fan. I think that this offense just has too much for this New York Giants team to handle. The Giants defense won't be able to keep up with Carolina. And again, we're laying 6.5 here with Carolina, but I can't really expect this Giants team to put up enough points to really compete. Carolina will march the field numerous times, and I'm seeing 30-point night here from the Carolina Panthers, and I don't think the Giants will compete with that. So I got to lay the points here with the Panthers, and you know what? I will go over the total in this one as well, because I do see some action happening from the Giants. Week to week they can surprise us. They can go downfield, but I'm not really high on the Giants either. They're 1-3 against the spread. Carolina for this one, Drew.
All right, good one. We got Denver at New York Jets. Looks like the Broncos laying 1 on the road. Some places got picked. Jazz has even got the New York Jets as favored by 142 the total. Some opinion in the marketplace. Pretty much a pick'em game. How would you look to bet this one, McInnis?
To be honest, Drew, not too crazy of an opinion on this one. I think it will be a tight matchup, though. It's a decent spot here for the Jets playing at home, but I still don't know what kind of team they are. Again, I talked with you about this last week, and I'm really confused with what kind of team they're going to put out in the field for the next, let's say the next 4 weeks this NFL season. So this will be one that I'll really sit back and kind of study, because as far as this Denver Broncos team, I mean, they're 0-3-1 against the spread, and I think this is a game for them that they really should win. I don't know if they will, though. I think they should take care of this Jets team, but it's kind of a big game for both of them in my eyes. As far as the total goes, that'd kind of be my lean and my play on this one. If I was to make a wager, it would be under the total of 42.5.
We got 461, 462, Atlanta Falcons at Pittsburgh Steelers. Looks like this one a high total. McInnis, we got 58 with the Steelers laying 3 at home, 3 with juice, even 3.5s out there at the Greek. You got any opinion on this one?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one, Drew. I think this is a good spot for them. I think that Atlanta will just digress as the season goes on. They're banged up, they're injured, and I think, I might get some hate for saying this, Drew, but I'm not really too high on Matt Ryan. A lot of people do say he's kind of underrated and stuff like that, but I think he's one of those quarterbacks that can really play well when everything's going great around him and his receivers are playing well, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there and lead a comeback or lead a team that's struggling this season. And this Falcons team, 1-3 against the spread this year, they're going up against a Steelers team that I believe is much more hungry. And they're playing at home, and I think they're going to have a lot more confidence in this one. But as far as the total goes, Drew, that's too high for my liking. I think that the odds makers see this one as two powerful offenses, two quarterbacks that like to go deep. But it's way too high, man. I think that this one's going to stay a little bit under that total. And both these two teams know that if they're going to do anything this year, mean any kind of business, they got to get some stops. They got to play some defense. And I think that this game will start off a little bit slow, maybe even look at a first half under in my eyes. But, I'll look for Pittsburgh here, Drew, and the under in this one.
And you bring up some interesting points about Matt Ryan, McInnis. I mean, in your opinion, for one game, who would you rather have as your quarterback, Roethlisberger or Matt Ryan?
Right now, I definitely would take Roethlisberger. First of all, I think that he's more aware of his surroundings. I believe that Matt Ryan, when he's out there, he's running through the plays, and I feel like he always just has that one target in his head. Of course, as a quarterback, you already have you have your looks. You know where you're looking first, you know where you're looking second, you know where you're looking third. But I feel like, of course, the veteran and the experience for Big Ben, I don't think that's how he operates, Drew. I think that he looks around. Of course, the size of him, he's a massive, massive human being. He's very hard to sack. I feel like he's more patient. He sees the game, he slows the game down, and he's a lot more patient than Matt Ryan. So I got a few buddies that are Falcons fans that are probably going to be mad at me saying this, but I would definitely take Roethlisberger over Matt Ryan right now.
Yeah, you know what? I want to put this up on Twitter, and when we're done with the podcast, I'll do it as far as who would the public out there go with. Because I like Matt Ryan more than Ben Roethlisberger. I kind of think Ben Roethlisberger is a little overrated. So, hey, that's what makes a market. And, we'll put that on Twitter. Follow on at Sportsmemo. But, yeah, let's...
The funny thing...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Drew. Yeah, no. What I love about this kind of stuff, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and the best way to find out which quarterback is more elite and which quarterback can kind of carry a team more is seeing these two teams not look the best, and both these two teams around 1-3 against the spread, and to see these two teams not put up exceptional efforts and exceptional games. I think down the road, Drew, you and I will be talking every week together on various podcasts. We'll get to kind of find out which quarterback can battle through adversity and that kind of stuff. So that's the way I look at it, especially in other sports. Players, coaches, goaltenders, how they operate on teams that aren't very good, because these two quarterbacks are used to playing on very highly skilled teams.
Yeah, well said. We got 463, 464 Green Bay at Detroit. Looks like 51 the total. Another one here, closely contested, at least in the betting marketplace. With this is a good one to shop around with sports books, because we got Green Bay laying 1. Some places got pick. Some places got Detroit laying 1. So we'll go with pick for the sake of analysis, McInnis. But would you look to bet the Packers and Lions?
I'm going to stay away from this one. Aaron Rodgers always finds a way to battle through Detroit. We saw a couple years ago that massive Hail Mary at the end of the game. I'm worried about some of the injuries right now. I know Cobb, Adams, guys like that, the weapons. Rodgers always finds a way. I think that it's not really talked about enough, Drew, that Rodgers really, no matter who's out there for him, everyone always says that Brady, could grab a homeless guy off the street and still, get him a touchdown in the game. But I think that realistically, Rodgers can get anyone a touchdown and make anyone look good. So realistically, Green Bay always has a shot, especially, at a big game like this. The play I'm going to look at here is the under. I think both these two teams are exciting teams to watch. Both these quarterbacks can go deep. But again, these are two teams that, in my eyes, we're at that point in the NFL season right now. Coaches are looking at what they have to improve on. I think defense is the answer for both of them. So having said that, I'll go under the total of 51.
All right, liking the under 51 in that one. We got 465, 466, Miami, Cincinnati. Looks like 48.5 the total here, with the Dolphins catching 6, 5.5 at some shops on the road. You like the dog or the favorite in this one, McInnis?
Give me the Bengals, Drew. Give me the Bengals. I think they mean business this year. We saw an outstanding start here for the Dolphins this season, 3-1 against the spread. And, I keep mentioning back to it, Drew, but I really like that, you mentioned to me our first week doing these podcasts, for me joining you, about your buddies back in Florida talking about this Miami team and the start that they had. But I just don't think on a week-to-week basis they're going to keep it up. I think they're a team that had a great start, but teams will figure them out. And I think that realistically, they've been in too many tightly contested games at halftime and heading into the fourth quarter, etc. Meanwhile, while this Bengals team have been putting up points early in games, and geez, Dalton is a guy that I never really was too high on. I never thought he was, the real deal, a guy that can really be elite on a certain team. But he's proving that right now, and I think that plain and simple, Drew, it sounds very basic, but I just think this Bengals team can put up far more points than the Miami Dolphins, and the Bengals defense isn't as bad as people think. So I'm going to ride with the favorite here. It is a decent amount of points, but in this one, I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Yeah, Dolphins are an interesting handicap now because they came out, guns blazing, looking good, and then kind of got their doors blown off there going on the road to New England. Now they're heading back out on the road. It's an interesting handicap. I lean towards the Dolphins taking the points, almost a touchdown, but I don't know if I can get there. We got 467, 468, Oakland at LA, the LA Chargers, that is, 52.5 the total. Chargers laying 6 at home. How would you look to bet this one, McInnis?
Gotta say, I think that with the effort we saw from Oakland, even though Drew, the Cleveland Browns kind of did hand them the game with some fumbles and unforced turnovers and kind of underthrows, overthrows by Baker Mayfield, Oakland's a team that can battle, man. They can scrap. They just find a way to stay in close games. That's kind of the reputation that they've built in my eyes, Drew, and the identity they've built. And again, I'm going to talk about it. This is a time of the year, the time of the season. We're a little more than a quarter away now through this NFL season. This is the time of year where you build your identity. And I think that we're getting 5 points with the Oakland, who can compete, who can put up numbers as well. It's a good test for them, though. The Chargers have been known for scoring very, very high so far, but they're not a team that I'm too excited about, to be honest with you. I think that as the season progresses, we'll realize that they'll go on a kind of downward spiral. And we're laying the 5 points. We get 5 points here with this Raiders team, who I think had a bad start to the season, who will go upwards as the season goes on. So, you can go ahead and give me Oakland +5.
And McInnis, these are two teams where, kind of in flux in terms of where they're playing, how, the venues, with Oakland going to Las Vegas. Also, the LA Chargers, a lot of people consider that their home field advantage the weakest in all of the NFL. Did you factor that in at all as far as maybe that hurting the Chargers here with this 5 or this 6 number?
I definitely do. I think that being comfortable at home and really actually feeling like you're at home is an advantage, and it should be. You look at an NFL slate, and I think that you wouldn't be handicapping properly if you didn't take into account a team on the road, a team playing at home, and how exciting their building is, how they play differently at home, if they take more chances, if they start better at home. And looking at this Chargers team, I don't think it's really a home game. I think, I don't do too much college football, but Drew, I know you're the college man. I just think that, in college, they do a lot of neutral site games and stuff like that. This is pretty much what that is to me. I don't think Oakland's going to have too much to worry about as far as hearing play calls and stuff like that. So it's sad to say the Chargers, not like they don't have a fan base at all, Drew, but it's nothing to go crazy about.
Yeah, no, that was well said. And yeah, it is kind of like a neutral site game. Maybe not even give the Chargers any home field advantage. There might be more Oakland Raiders fans there. Who knows? But yeah, moving down the card, we got a couple games left here, guys. 469, 470. The 4:30 Eastern kicks, 1:30 Pacific kicks. Arizona, San Francisco. This one's totaled at 40, low total here, McInnis, with the 49ers laying 4 at home with a backup quarterback.
I love this one here, man. I love this one. I think that it's a great spot because we got the backup in. We're seeing a team that is supposed to be banged up, supposed to be on a regression since their man Jimmy G went down. And this is still a team that has weapons on offense. This is still a team that should be taken seriously, and we saw that. We're seeing this the past couple of weeks, and it's a real shame to see Garoppolo go down, but I gotta say, Drew, I am not a fan of this Arizona team. I mean, they're not going to do anything against this San Francisco team. I think the defense will prove themselves for the 49ers. I would look at a bet for San Fran first half. You can probably get it at around a pick 'em price. I mean, this is going to be a game where San Fran gets off to an exceptional start. They prove, look, we got a backup quarterback in. So what? We still have weapons on offense. We still have guys that can run the ball, and I don't think Arizona has either of those options. So. Arizona cannot put up points. I can't see them scoring more than 10, 15 points. Meanwhile, this San Fran team is going to put up a boatload in my eyes. They're going to walk all over this Cardinals lineup in my eyes.
McInnis, moving down the card here, we got 471, 472, Minnesota at Philadelphia. Looks like 46.5 the total. With the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, laying 3 with juice at home.
Drew, you just talked about teams having an advantage playing at home. This Chargers team, do they have an advantage playing at home? Well, I think this Philadelphia team, they have an advantage playing at home. They've got a crowd. They've got a passionate fan base that comes out to support them, and I think they'll have a huge game here as well. One thing I like about Philadelphia is that, a couple weeks ago we look at them and we see them competing in a very low-scoring game. They find a way always, Drew. They always find a way. They're in tight games. Philadelphia is a team, if you look at their past several games dating back to last year, they don't really get blown out. I mean, they don't really ever get demolished. And where they're laying, again, just a field goal in this one. I see so many, lines here that are -3, 3.5, and I'm liking a lot of the home teams here. But Minnesota comes in, they're on the road. I think this is just a bad spot for them. Philadelphia will be comfortable at home. And in my opinion, Drew, this is a big game for them. So I got to look here at Philadelphia at home, but more importantly, more of a bigger best bet for me. And this is one that I will definitely be nailing here in this NFL Sunday, the under 46.5. Look for this one to be a lower scoring game. Two quarterbacks that can really throw the ball, two offenses that can get going when they want to. But the defense will be there on Sunday, and I'm going to look under the total for this one.
All right, McInnis, we're back to L.A. for the Rams this time, but they're heading on the road, laying 7.5 at some shops, so this is a good one to shop around, guys. Sportsmemo, free odds here, looking anywhere from Pinnacle all the way to the Vegas books as well. So make sure to be getting the best of the number, especially in the NFL on 3s, 4s, 6s, 7s. But back to this game, we got the Rams at the Seahawks, laying 7 or 7.5, 50 the total, McInnis.
I've been thinking about this one all week, Drew. To be honest with you, that's been a kind of a tough one to read. A lot of people after Seattle's performance last week thought, look, they can compete in close games. They're there. They're a team that's not as bad as everyone thought they would be. But 7.5. This Rams team is, everyone's talking about them going deep in the playoffs, going to that Super Bowl, going far. But 7.5 is a lot of points. It's a lot of points. And again, Seattle's at home. I do talk about teams that are at home looking at an advantage. This is a massive road favorite in my eyes. The public's loving the Rams, and I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to look at this Seahawks team. I'm going to take the plus points here, 7.5. It's just a little bit too much for my liking. I do believe that this team and Russell Wilson can lead them to at least not win this game, Drew, but at least cover the spread and keep this game close.
We got the Sunday night game again, and then just the Monday night game. We got 475, 476 Dallas at Houston. Looks like this one totaled at 45.5 with Houston laying 3 or 3.5 at home.
Yeah, not too much on this game, to be honest with you, Drew. This is another one where I do think it'll be a lower scoring game. Two teams where I'm not really trusting their offense right now. I've told you this, and I've mentioned this with you, and I look forward to talking back and forth with you more about football as the season progresses. But I honestly have higher standards. I hold a high standard for this Dallas team. I mean, I don't think that just because they don't have these studs, these all-stars, these big names on offense, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't, be exceptional. Of course, they've got Zeke and they've got Dak, but, the fact that they have Beasley as one of the number one guys isn't impressive, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to put up points. And it's very surprising to me that they haven't been able to put up a high amount. And of course, this Houston team is actually looking pretty impressive this year. So, if I was to give out a side, I'd lay a home field goal here with Houston. But again, I do think this will be a lower scoring game. These teams will struggle to score. It'll be a lot of time where these two teams will just be punting the ball away, and we'll see a lot of that. Again, I'll mention it. It'll be a nighttime game here, prime time game, Sunday Night Football, but it'll be a boring one. But people will still be excited about it because it's Sunday Night Football, Drew. But it'll be a boring game in my eyes. It'll be a very low-scoring game.
Yeah, that intro song, Sunday night. I always enjoy watching the Sunday night game. It's not a bad one.
No matter who's playing.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's a fun one just to kind of sit back, singled out game. But we got another one here Monday night to finish it off, and then we'll get some NHL thoughts from McInnis. We got 477-478 Washington at New Orleans in the Big Easy. This would be a fun one to go to. We got 53 the total. Saints laying 6.5, pretty much across the board at home. You got any interest in betting this one, McInnis?
I actually do. I'm really I'm liking New Orleans here. I think that, again, we're getting a bigger spread. It's a 6.5 number here. But I think this is a big spot. New Orleans has to prove themselves, to prove their worth. Drew Brees, I think that he's shown us this year that, wow, this guy is still around. He's still the man. He can still go deep. He can still make plays happen. But I think looking around him and coming up against this team that has been competitive in Washington, but again, Washington visiting New Orleans, I just got to put a lot more respect on this New Orleans team. I think that they're capable of actually going far, whereas Washington is a couple years out. That might be an unpopular opinion from a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people will agree with that in my eyes, Drew. But this is a Washington team where, in my eyes, from week to week, I'm seeing exceptional plays from certain players. I'm seeing AP just, run out of his mind. And then the next week I'm saying, where are these guys? Where are these guys that are supposed to be studs? Where are these guys that, are supposed to be there in the end zone putting up points on a weekly basis? So for that reason, I'm just, sit back really as a fan and watch the game. But if I was to look at it, I would definitely say, look, New Orleans, with the touchdown, I'll take it.
I want to give a special shout out to you, McInnis. You guys, as you're listening to this podcast, there was some technical difficulties with some other handicappers. McInnis just rattled off all these games with really not much preparation time at all. So he really knows his stuff, in the NFL. Being able just to kind of recite these stats, give his picks, give his leans, what he's looking towards, that was pretty impressive stuff, just kind of right off the cap, McInnis. And you just proved you pretty much know your NFL stuff. But would you say your best sport is the NHL?
100%. I think that in each, for handicappers, I do believe that you kind of have to have your niche markets, your niche sports. And, being a Canadian, Drew, from the East Coast, the far East Coast, a lot of people probably out there listening to this podcast, Drew, guarantee they don't even know what the city is where I live, where I'm from. And I think that hockey is just so big here. Everyone plays hockey growing up. Everyone sees it. Everyone learns it. The media is all they're talking about is hockey. So it's an edge that I've had. And, whether people want to believe it or not, if you enjoy what you're doing and you're excited about it, I can't stop reading about hockey. I can't stop watching it. I can't stop studying it. I mean, people talk about love what you're doing and have a passion about what you're doing. Drew, I'm so excited to be here on Sportsmemo with all of you guys. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be on this website, and I'm very prepared and very hungry to show what I can do in the NHL this season. I mean, it's a very small scale, but 20-12 here to start, including my preseason wagers. I'm treading lightly here so far to start this season off, but again, I check the line combinations. I check what coaches are saying. I check what players are saying. I'm always looking. I don't just say, hey, look, San Jose, opening night, they've picked up Carlson, they've got Kane, they've got Pavelski, they've got Thornton. All of a sudden, I'm going to take them and, lay the huge chalk. I saw guys laying -170 with the Sharks on Wednesday night, opening night, when you haven't even seen them play yet. Okay, I'm research heavy. I watch every game. I watch replays of games on the NHL TV pretty much every night after every game is finished. And yeah, I definitely, I want to have that reputation, Drew, where look, I can make wagers in the NFL. I can make wagers in the CFL. I do bet the baseball at MLB, but I want to be known on this Sportsmemo website that NHL is my sport, and I don't want to be messing around with it. It's something I want to take very seriously and have a hot start with.
Yeah, well, it's there for the taking, man. There's a big NHL contingent with Sportsmemo, so I'm excited for you. Obviously, hungry young guy. And guys, we'll do a special podcast kind of coupon deal here. If you type in podcast1 in the coupon code at checkout, we'll do a 2-for-1. So if you buy McInnis's NHL full season, we'll throw in his NFL full season on the house. So that coupon code is podcast1, pretty much a 2-for-1. If you buy his NFL full season or NHL full season, we'll throw in his NFL on the house. McInnis, anything you want to throw out there to the listeners as far as how you handicap the NHL and why you think it's beatable? Like what kind of angles do you look at? Just real quick, if you could throw out, kind of it's speaking to like the more American sports better, like myself, as far as we know the NHL, but I'm not going to sit here and try to beat the NHL from a betting standpoint. If it's on, I watch it. I'd like to put a bet on it. But what would you say has really helped you this season after the run you're on, and in past seasons in beating this market?
It's a good question, Drew. I think that the biggest thing with the NHL and in comparison to other sports, you look at the NFL, Drew, it's a once a week. I heard a friend of mine, Donnie Wrightside, talking about this, where the NFL is once a week. You've got each team plays one game a week. You've got all week to study for them. But the difference is the NHL, they're playing games, every night, if not every second night, the rare 3-day break. But these teams are playing so often, Drew, that you're not going to just get the best teams winning every night. I mean, and the odds makers, I'll be honest, they don't care a lot about the NHL, it seems. So looking at overnight lines is so important with the NHL. I mean, you'll see a line that's completely off, and then meanwhile, the next day, about 2 hours before puck drop, it's just completely different, sometimes on the opposite side. So I think it's really important to follow the league on a night-to-night basis. 2, it's really important to see how players are playing. I mean, it's good to look at entire rosters. A lot of people will just look at, the Sidney Crosbys of the world, the Alexander Ovechkins of the world, those kind of players. But I think it's important to know those guys that people haven't heard of or people aren't talking about as much. I think that's the advantage that I have, is that, I'm so interested in it and I follow it so closely that, hey, look, this third liner on St. Louis is having an exceptional year so far. That builds that team. That makes them a better team, just because he's now bringing offense over to the third line, whereas everyone else is already stopping at, Tarasenko on the first line is their best player, and they don't read any further. So I think it's really important, and the edge that you have with the NHL, Drew, to just completely answer your question, is that on a night-to-night basis, you can really find a situational spot. For example, the Bruins got absolutely blown out, just absolutely messed up by the Washington Capitals in opening night on Wednesday. What did they go last night and just completely flip the script and win a 4-0 game? So I think that looking at each game as a separate slate, not looking at, this team is starting off on an 8-2 streak here to start the season off, so I'll lay, minus 150 with them. It's not how it is. Each day is a different day to break down a card. And that's why I love the NHL, because anything can happen. I mean, kind of going off on a rant here, Drew, but, look at the NBA. If you look at the NBA right now, or at least the past couple of years, Drew, which teams do you think, which team in the Western Conference do you think is going to go to the finals?
I would say the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the NHL, if you look at it right now, I guarantee you, you could give me 3 teams in the Western Conference to go to the finals, and none of them could probably make it. I mean, the Golden Knights made the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and it was their first year in the league.
That's crazy, man.
It's ridiculous. I mean, they're a team that was an expansion team. Also, just to mention for the podcast, Drew, they're going to be a fade team for me this year because people have such high expectations for them based off last year. But, they're a team that was an expansion team in their first year, and they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So to sum up, just a little rant here, every day is different in NHL, and there's always a spot. There's always a great value spot to look at. And I have a 4% play going off tonight. It's only 2 games on the card tonight. So I'm really excited about this one. And we're treading lightly, but we're loving it so far, Drew.
Well, great stuff, McInnis. Thanks for coming on. Short notice. Obviously, know your stuff. Guys, use coupon code podcast1. That's just the number 1 at the end of the word podcast, and you can get a 2-for-1 with McInnis's NHL and NFL full seasons. Follow him on Twitter at McInnis Picks. And guys, that does it for the Sports Memo podcast for this week. So we will be back on Monday with Teddy Covers doing the opening line report in the NFL. Best of luck with your bets this weekend.